In this video, I'm going to be going over how to set up the custom buttons on the new Sony a7RVI. Now, this is an extremely customizable camera, and I think that is one of Sony's biggest advantages. They really do give you a lot of control over the buttons that they give you to customize. So if you're tired of missing shots because you have to be fumbling around through settings, taking your eye off of the subject, this video is for you. But real quick, my name is Alvaro. I'm a landscape photographer from the beautiful Pacific Northwest. And I actually use these bodies out in the field. I've used it in windy conditions, rainy conditions, comfortable sunny conditions, at the beach with a lot of sand. So I have a lot of experience using Sony Alpha bodies. I've been shooting with them for about 10 years now. And in that time, I've discovered a way to set these cameras up as an extension of my creativity. To make sure that it's easy to follow along, I'm going to be diving into the menus with you and showing you how to set up each button step by step. With each button, I'm also going to be giving an explanation behind each decision. Along the way, I'll also share some of my opinions on this new camera. So the philosophy for this configuration is actually pretty simple. I need to be able to switch gears quickly without having to take my eye off of the subject. I also need to have the most important settings within reach. And I need to be able to use this camera even in the pitch black darkness, like when I'm doing astrophotography. The goal is to turn this device into an extension of my creativity, rather than a computer that I have to navigate. All right, so let's jump into the menu. The menu button is right here under the eye cup. We're going to press it and it should bring you in here. Now on the far left-hand side is all of these icons. These are the different areas of the camera system. So you can see here the star icon represents the My menu. So the first thing I recommend you do is go to the AF/MF section, the focus section. After that, go to AF/MF, which is section number 1. And from there, go to the second page of this area. Just scroll down, and where it says AF with shutter, that means autofocus with shutter, make sure that is set to off, because this setup utilizes back button autofocus, which we will talk about a little more later. This next setting is absolutely non-negotiable. Everybody should change this. So to do so, go to the toolbox icon. It's the one on the very bottom. And by the way, it's also touchscreen. So if you ever wanted to jump into different sections, you can do it that way. After that, scroll down to the second page and go to the sound option, which is section 10. Go to audio signal shooting. Please turn it off. And then audio signal start and end, also turn that off. That way, when you initiate your autofocus, which for me, it's the joystick, if I press it in, it'll initiate the autofocus. It won't make that annoying beeping sound. And you won't sound like a complete novice when you're taking photos. Here's another couple of things that we need to change before we actually get to the customization. Go back into the menu and go back into the shooting section on the very left-hand side. It's the camera icon right there. And go back to area number 7, which is shutter/silent. I strongly recommend you do shutter without release, or sorry, release without lens. You enable that. What that does is, if you ever want to use completely manual lenses without any electronic contact to the camera, it will allow you to take photos or make videos with it. And then disable release without card. If I want to know whether or not there's a memory card in the camera, if there is, it'll let me take a picture, like so. And if not, then it will not let me take a picture. And this has helped me to remember to bring my memory cards before I go out on a shoot, because one time is still too many times. Now that we've gotten those small but important details out of the way, it's time to customize our first button, which is the video record button, also known as the movie button. and it is right here on top of the camera. So we're going to change the movie button to toggle between autofocus and manual focus. Let's set it up, and then I'll explain my reasoning behind this decision. So to do that, go into the menu and then go to the setup section, and then go to section number 3, Operation Customize. I know there's a lot of menus, but that's why I'm walking you step by step. Then go to the right once more, and you're going to want to be on the top one, which is custom key / dial set, but it's for photography. You can also have custom settings for each button for videography, but in this video, we're going to focus on just the photography aspect. Press OK, so just press this button. And a welcome new feature of the A7R6 is that when you press the button that you want to work on, it'll pull it up in the menu for you. So as it says there, it's going to be set to AF/MF selector toggle. To find that, it's going to be in the AF/MF icon, AF/MF section 1, and then scroll down to the third option, AF/MF selector toggle, and then just press OK. And now you have set a way for you to quickly go between autofocus and manual focus. Now let me explain the reasoning behind this decision. Okay, so why would we change the movie button to a different function? While the Sony a7R6 does have some pretty good movie functions, I believe it can shoot 8K 30p or more, 4K 120, but in my opinion, this is primarily a photographer's tool that can shoot video. So I believe it's important to be able to have a more important function when it comes to photography. And I really like the placement of where the button is. Normally we grab the camera like so, and we have the grip right there. And your index finger is usually right on the shutter most of the time, or on the front dial. If I ever want to switch to manual focus, this leaves it in a very easy to reach and convenient spot, right there. Now I've found myself using this feature relatively often when it comes to photographing those really small birds. So for example, in the situation of having a small bird, or even like an eagle, which I've been shooting a lot of lately, sometimes they hide between the leaves and the branches and the limbs of the tree, and the autofocus can sometimes struggle before picking up the subject. Now, it'll get you close enough. Sometimes the autofocus will focus on the limb that's in front of the creature or right behind it. If you can switch to manual focus quickly and then adjust your manual focus a little bit in the right direction, it'll give you a better opportunity, or I should say, it'll increase your chances of actually getting that shot before the bird flies off. And in my experience, what I've had happen is, if the animal comes out into the open a little more, I'll just switch back to autofocus, and then the autofocus will pick up the subject, track it perfectly, and then, you know, as it takes off, or if it comes out into the open, I'll be ready to get that shot. But this does not mean that you will lose the ability to take video with this camera. So let's set that up, and then we can get back to setting up the rest of the buttons. Okay, so like I said, you will not lose the ability to shoot video on the Sony a7R6 if you remove that function from the video record button. There's a couple of different ways of doing this. First, this is what I recommend. Go into the setup section again, and then section 3, which is Operation Customize. And then from here, go to the second page. So you can scroll all the way down, or if you use the scroll wheel here, you can go to the second page, and then this section right here, record with shutter. Now, when you switch to video mode, you can either just press the shutter button and the camera will start recording video, or you can just set the video record button in the video settings to do the same thing. So it really is up to you on how you want to do it. The next button that we're going to configure is the C2 button, which is right next to the movie button here in the top section. We're going to map it to let us control the manual focusing assist. So let's set it, and then I'll explain my reasoning behind this decision. All right, let's go into the menu. Make sure that you are in the toolbox setup section, and then section number 3, operation customize. Then go up to where it says custom key / dial set, and then press the C2 button and it'll pull it up for you. Press OK. Make sure you are in the AF/MF icon. Then go to the 4th section, focus assistant, and then choose focus magnifier. Now you have 2 very powerful focusing tools at the reach of your fingertip up here. I'm going to give a quick demonstration of how beneficial it is to have these 2 buttons set up the way they are, especially them being right next to each other. So normally you grab your camera like that. Sometimes I use this weird claw grip, so I have my index finger for this area here, and then with my middle finger to control the front dial. But yeah, normally you grab it like that. So suppose that in your shooting situation, you've got a grip on your camera and you need to switch to manual focus. You just press it like that, and you can do that without taking your eye off of your subject, whether you're using the EVF or the back screen. Now, when you're focusing, you want to dial it in, so this camera will allow you to zoom in closer to your subject. Now you can just press that button continually while you are manually adjusting your camera with the focus ring, like so. Let me give a quick demonstration of what that might look like. Okay, so for our example, we want to make sure that we are in manual focus. So let's jump into manual focus just by the press of 1 button. After that, we want to take a photo of this image, or sorry, of this Asian thing. I don't know what it is. It's my wife's, but it looks cool. So for the sake of demonstration, let's just jump right into it. When you turn your focusing ring, sometimes your camera will zoom in a little too much, and you need a way to be able to quickly zoom out. So with the touch of the C2 button, which is next to the video record button, you can zoom in some more if you need it, or quickly zoom all the way out. Now you can get some pretty granular control of where you want the camera to focus when you are dialing in your focus, like so. Once you have it where you want it, take your photo, and bam. All in all, these 2 functions right next to each other, especially right next to the shutter button, they have really good synergy. They work really well with each other. And if you take up this configuration, I strongly believe that it will improve your photography process. And just like me, you will miss a lot less shots because you're not going to catch them all, but you want to get pretty close. The next thing we're going to change is actually pretty exciting. It's brand new to this camera, the Sony a7RVI, and it is this light bulb button, the Illumination button. So if changing the video record button to something else wasn't controversial enough, wait until you see what I mapped this button to do. All right, so to change the Illumination button, we're going to go into the menu, and it should bring you back to this section, the custom key / dial set. Press enter, and then just press the Illumination or the light bulb button, and it should bring it up. And what I have it set to is switch silent mode. In order to do that, on the very left-hand side, go into the camera icon, followed by section number 7, shutter / silent, and then go to switch silent mode. Press OK, and now let's see the difference. There's the mechanical shutter, and if you turn on silent mode, well, now you can't hear anything. And this is really beneficial for when you need to be sneaky, like when you are taking photos of smaller critters like chipmunks or squirrels, or small birds like chickadees and stuff like that. I've had birds fly off on me just because the shutter was going off, and that's just one less variable I have to deal with. Also, with this new camera, the a7RVI, you can shoot up to 30 frames per second, blackout free. So On this body, unlike the A7RV, you actually have a very usable electronic shutter, and I highly recommend that you get the most out of this function. Something I haven't mentioned yet is that this camera now has pre-capture. So when you are using the electronic shutter, which you are if you switch to silent mode, and you can see the little icon right there on the top. When we turn it on, it appears. And now we have the ability to shoot up to 30 frames per second with a pre-capture of 0.03 to 1 full second, which is really cool. Let's set that up so that we get the most out of this configuration. The fastest way to get to the setting is to turn on the light bulb button so you can turn on silent mode, which turns on the electronic shutter. Then you're going to go into the menu. After that, you're going to go into the shooting menu. So that is the camera icon. For me, I'm going to tap it, then go down to section 5, drive mode. And then you can see right here, the pre-capture settings. So you want to have pre-capture turned on, and then you can choose whatever you prefer. I have 1 full second because I think that'll give me the most opportunity to get the perfect frame, but you can choose whatever you want if you think that's a little excessive. Remember, it shoots 30 frames per second. That can take up a lot of memory. So if you're going to be using that function, either use it wisely or make sure that your memory card is big enough. The other thing you want to set is this thing here at the bottom, pre-capture start trigger. So what I have is both valid. Basically what it's asking you is, what do you want to initiate pre-capture? Do you want it to be when you start autofocusing or when you have pressed the shutter button? So I have both. Again, that way I can give myself more of a possibility of getting that perfect frame. So a quick side point, when I saw the camera release, I was a little nervous that they added a third button to this area. You see, for a very long time, I've been using the 2 buttons up here for the autofocus manual focus toggle and the focus assistant. So I was afraid that if they introduce a new button, that I would be pressing it accidentally or that it would be too difficult or confusing to find. But so far, I haven't had that sort of issue at all. Next up on our list, we're going to be moving to these buttons here on the top, starting with the AEL button. And you may have noticed that when I move my finger over the eye cup sensor, that my screen doesn't go blank. That's because I've set this button to switch between the viewfinder and the back screen. It's actually pretty handy because I tend to rest my thumb in this section here. So even if I'm initiating the autofocus, I can quickly just roll my thumb over and then jump over into this section again. So let's set it up. Go into the menu. I'm going to use the touchscreen to the toolbox, third section, custom key / dial. Again, just press the button and it should pull it up for you. Press OK. And for that, you're going to want to go to the toolbox section all the way at the very left, followed by section 5, Finder / Monitor, and then select Finder / Monitor Select. There's a couple more things you need to do in order to get this working right. So let's take care of that real fast. In the menu, you want to go to the setup section, but this time you want to go to Finder / Monitor. And on the first option after that, select Finder / Monitor, go to Monitor / Manual. Now, your camera will switch between the EVF and the back screen when you want to, not when the camera thinks it wants to. And I'll explain why this is a very beneficial use out in the field. The reason you want the ability to switch between the EVF and the back screen when you say, rather than when the camera says, is because the camera can get confused by a number of things, primarily, in my experience, the weather. One time I was out shooting bald eagles in the snow and I had like this perfect composition a bald eagle flew down and it landed on a beautiful branch right in front of me. It was evergreen with the snow falling in the back. It was awesome. But I didn't know that I had some snow in my viewfinder. Because of that, I couldn't use my back screen. It was blank because it triggered the viewfinder sensor. And I couldn't use my viewfinder because, well, it was full of snow. I tried to use my shirt to clean it out, but it just made it worse. And then there was like basically a puddle of water in there. Not good. Ever since, I've learned I need to be the one that decides when to switch from the EVF to the back monitor. It did take a little bit of getting used to, but now it's kind of like second nature. And really, it depends on what I'm shooting. For example, if I have my 200 to 600 millimeter lens on, most of the time I use the EVF. So I'll have my eye up to the viewfinder and I'll just track the bird around like so, and I'll just leave it on that way. If I'm doing landscape photography, then I'll use the back screen for the most part. And sometimes I'll be doing landscape photography in the rain and you'll get water in here. That's not good, but I've eliminated that variable now. Another thing is for astrophotography. So when you're shooting in the dark, you want your eyes to adjust. And when you go from looking at the night sky to a really bright screen, it can kind of hurt your eyes, at least in my experience. And you lose your night vision. It takes like a couple of minutes for your eyes to get used to the darkness again. So what I do is once I have my focus down, I just turn off the back screen. And if I need to, I can turn it back on just to make sure everything is going well. But it gives my eyes a break from the light that it emits. So those are some uses. I think it's super handy, and I strongly recommend that you set it specifically to the AEL button, just because of the proximity to your thumb. Okay, we're moving on from the AEL button to the AF on button. Now, you might be thinking that this is to initiate our autofocus, but no. I actually have this mapped to what I believe is a more useful function for this button specifically. First, I'll set it up, then I'll give a demonstration and an explanation for this decision. So to do that, let's jump into the menu, go into the toolbox, the setup section, followed by section 3, operation customize, and then custom key/style set for photography. Press the AF on button, and we're going to set it to recognize target. To do that, make sure that you are in the AF/MF icon, followed by section 3, subject recognition, and then recog target select. It's recognize target. And let me show you what that does. So when we press OK, it's going to give you a list of subject recognitions that it can shoot. So for me, I think less is more. So I have human for when I take nice photos of my wife, animal for when I want to photograph specifically animals, and then bird when I'm shooting birds. It has this animal/bird and then auto. I don't really want to go through all that. I want to be the one that tells the camera what to look for. Press OK so that it actually saves it, and now we'll see what it does. Right now you can see that autofocus continuous is turned on and it is set to human. So by pressing this button, I can quickly cycle through which subject I want the camera to look for. So because I only have 3, I'm able to quickly go through them. And you start to build this sort of muscle memory. When you are in bird subject recognition, you know that, oh, just one, and I can go back to human, and from there to animal. And so you start to build this muscle memory. It doesn't take very long. And again, you can do this without having to take your eye off of the viewfinder or the back screen. You can keep your eye on your subject as you go and change your settings, and it can be done very quickly. I decided that I wanted this setting one time when I was out taking some photos, and there was a deer out in a beautiful open field in spring, and on top of the deer were a bunch of birds. So on its back, a couple were on its antlers, but the camera, instead of trying to focus on the deer, it kept focusing on the birds, and that's because I had it in bird recognition. So, you know, the camera was just doing what it was told to do, but I needed a way to switch to animal recognition. Had I had that function on, had I had the ability to be able to switch between my subject recognitions as quickly as I can now, I probably would have gotten that photo. Now, the birds, they were pretty small and very difficult to actually get a good photo of. So I don't really have a good photo of that scenario, but I also didn't have a way to switch from bird to animal recognition quickly. So that was a lesson learned, and that's how I think that this function will help you. Another time I was taking photos of my wife playing with some birds, and she had some birds fly onto her hand, and the camera was in human recognition, so it kept focusing on her instead of the bird. So, but that time I was able to quickly switch to bird recognition. So the camera, even though it recognized my wife, it specifically started to focus on the birds, and I was able to get that shot. So that's how I think this is a very useful feature. Again, it'll give you a very, very long list of options. So if you are an insect photographer, if you do a lot of macro or want to take photos of bees or whatever and all that stuff, just pick, I recommend, as few as you need. That way it'll make cycling through them that much faster and easier. Now, suppose for some reason you wanted to turn off entirely your subject recognition. So you didn't want your camera to try and look for a bird, an animal, a human, or whatever other subject recognition that you chose for your system. I personally find it very beneficial to be able to turn that off when I don't want it. That way it doesn't confuse my camera. So for that, I've set the C1 button, which is tucked away under this viewfinder. Sometimes it can be a little hard to see, but I like it because with it being really out of the way, it's not a button that you're going to press accidentally. So let's set that up, and then I'll talk about its uses. So again, when you're in this menu, just press the C1 button and it'll bring it up for you. To set it, go to the AF/MF area, then section 3, subject recognition, and then recog off on toggle. That is a very confusing term. So all it does is it turns off your subject recognition. So as you can see here, we are in autofocus continuous, and you have a human recognition on, or animal or bird, whatever. But if you don't want your camera to look for a specific subject, by simply pressing that button, now your camera will just use regular autofocus and it will not be looking for a specific subject. I find this to be a pretty useful feature for when I'm photographing trees in the forest. So obviously, birds live in trees, but sometimes you don't want your camera to be focusing on those birds. So this will give you a way to quickly just turn that off if you don't need it, so it won't throw your camera's autofocusing system into something that you didn't want it to do. If you do any sort of pano stitching, focus stacking, or exposure bracketing, this next function is made just for you. So we're going to set the C3 button to create a divider frame, and I'm going to show you what that is and how useful it is for those sort of features. So we're going to go into the playback button. I've already set it up. So this is what a divider frame looks like. And essentially it acts as a bookmark in your photo roll. So what this tells me is that the photo between this divider frame and then that photo and that photo, we come to another divider frame after that. So this tells me that those two photos I planned while I was out in the field, I wanted to merge them together. So I wanted the highlights, I wanted the shadows from this photo, but the sky from this photo. And when I'm on my computer, I can actually see these two images within these two divider frames. And so when you're doing pano stitching, now you won't have to like put your hand in front of your lens and then take a photo and then do your pano. And then when you're done doing your pano, take another photo of your hand like that. So you'll see that I actually use this feature quite a lot. So in my photo roll, you'll see a divider frame there. And then the next one is that image, that image, that image, and then another divider frame. So this lets me know that the 3 photos in this case between those 2 divider frames, I intentionally shot them that way in order to merge them together later on, like so. All right, now let's set the function. Go to the custom key/dial, go to this menu, press C3, and then for that, you're gonna go to the camera icon, followed by section 10, selection/memo, and then in the very right section, it is the one at the bottom, create divider frame. Now you'll have a way to sort of index your photography as you're shooting in the field. And again, you won't need to take that silly photo of your hand. The next button that we're going to configure is the trash button, also known as the C4 button. See, I wish these labels weren't here. It would look a lot cleaner if all of this was just like one clean color, but maybe the next time. So for the C4 button, I've got it mapped to turn on or off the touchscreen. So if I turn it off, now my touchscreen is turned off, but if I turn it on, I can use the touchscreen again. So I'm not a big fan of this. I don't use it that often, but when you swipe to the left from the right side, it'll bring up these extra touch functions on your screen. So for example, I can start recording a video just by doing that, or switch my subject recognition, but I don't know, I don't really use it that much, and I find that it's a little hard to turn off. Oh, that time I actually did it right. But again, it just really depends on you and how you like to shoot. If you feel like you'll use these features a lot, yeah, go ahead. But I'm not really the one that uses it all that much. So I'm just gonna turn that off. I'll keep my touchscreen on for the times that I do want to use it. If you swipe up, it'll pull up your function menu, which is right here. But yeah, that's what I've set the C4 button to. The next thing we're going to set is the function of the joystick. Now the joystick has some pretty cool features. It'll let you move around your focus area, but it'll also let you press in and then activate the autofocus. That way you won't have to lift your finger up, go to a different button if you can just press that button since your thumb is already there. So let's set that up, and then I'll talk about a couple of other things I recommend changing. So you're going to go to the custom key/dial set. For this, you actually will need to scroll through your settings. So go to rear 2, go to the right, go to option number 1, which is the joystick. Make sure you are in the AF/MF area, then section 1 AF/MF, and then go to AF on and make sure you have that turned on. Now you'll be able to move your focusing area like so, and then just press in to initiate your autofocus in. As you can see, there's just a blank wall in front of the camera, but suppose that there was a bird or something, like you can see there, it has bird recognition on, so you can move your focus area to that section, and if there is a bird in that area, it'll focus on that bird, like so. And yes, I know there's no birds around, so use your imagination, please. Another cool thing that you can do with this is that if your camera is using the mechanical shutter, you can actually focus and then with the front dial, change your shutter speed without stopping the tracking of your subjects like I'm doing right now. You'll need to change the out of the box settings for this, so let's change that real fast. Go back into the menu, go to the custom key / dial, and scroll all the way down on the left hand side to the dial / wheel. And you want to set the first option to TV. You do that by going to the ± icon, then exposure, section 1, and then shutter speed after that. Now, don't forget, also change option number 2 to exposure, and then change that to aperture. That way you don't lose the ability to change your aperture. Now, most of my lenses, they have an aperture ring, so I don't really use the camera's aperture dial all that much, but some of my bigger wildlife lenses, they don't have the aperture ring on the body, so it is something that you're definitely still going to need. So this is useful if, say for example, you're tracking a bird or an animal, but you realize your shutter speed is a little low. You want to be able to change your shutter speed, but without losing track of your subject. Again, this only works in mechanical shutter. If you turn on silent mode, which turns on your electronic shutter, you can still track, but you won't be able to change your shutter speed. I don't know why. Maybe it has something to do with the pre-capture, but it at least works in the mechanical shutter mode. All right, we are almost done. For the next thing we want to change is the function of this center button. So let's set that up real quick. Let's go back into our menu, the custom key dial area, and you want to go to rear 2 once again, and it's the second option. And for that, I'm going to set it to display my menu. Go to the setup section, the toolbox icon, then option number 1, operation customize, and then go to display my menu. So my menu is basically like a junk drawer for your camera's system. When I press it, it brings me to these settings that I don't really change all that much, but I feel like I will need to change them eventually, depending on the day really. But this is where I put interval shoot function. So if I ever want to do interval shooting, all the settings are right here. I can set that real fast. So for example, if I wanted to have this camera shoot, say 1,000 photos on a tripod over the span of an hour, this is where you would go to do that. I'm not gonna go into how to set up the My Menu in this video because that'll take even longer. Depending on the views that this video gets, maybe I'll do a whole video on the My Menu, but for now, this is just for the actual custom buttons and how they will improve your photography when you're out in the field. Next, we're moving to the control wheel. Now, what's really nice about the Sony Alpha bodies is that yes, you can scroll, but you can also press each individual button and give it its own function, except for up. Up will always change your display like so, but the right button, left button, and down button, you can change to something else. Real fast, the left button, out of the box, it gives you your drive mode options. We're gonna leave that as is, so good job, Sony. I think that's a really nice place to put these options. Now for the right button, I set that to change your ISO. Most of the time I'm shooting with auto ISO, and what's nice is when you are in this menu, you can change your minimum ISO, which I believe it should be 100. It's the base ISO. And then the maximum, I set it to higher than what the camera comes out with. I would rather take a somewhat noisy photo than a blurry photo because I had to do my shutter speed way too low so that I can get a bright enough image. Just don't be scared. These cameras are phenomenal, so just increase your ISO like crazy. I've set mine to 16,000. All right, so let's set that up now. Go back into the menu, custom key / dial, go to rear 2, and it is option number 4, ISO. To do that, go to the ± icon on the very left, then section 1 for exposure, and then select ISO. Now you'll have full control of your ISO when you are in this menu. You can use the scroll wheel to change it, and you can actually change it pretty fast. But like I said, I usually have it on auto unless I'm doing landscape photography. If I'm on a tripod and I can choose all of my settings, if I have the time to do it, then I'll switch, but most of the time I just let my camera choose. The last button that we're going to change is the down button on the control wheel, and this is really nice. So let me show you what it does. There, you see this icon? It's like a rectangle within a rectangle. That turns on the camera's APS-C mode. So let's set it up, and then I'll explain how useful this is for a ton of situations. So go back into the menu. It should just jump right into this area. Go to rear 2. After that, it is option number 5. And you're gonna go to the camera icon, followed by section 1, which is image quality, and then choose APS-C/full frame. Make sure you have that on. If you're a wildlife photographer, I'm sure you know the benefits of being able to crop into your sensor so you can zoom in closer to your subject. And that is one of this function's best uses. You can just go from, say for example, 600 millimeters to a 1.5 time crop, gives you a 900 millimeter field of view, which is really nice. On this body, when you are in crop mode, you still get about a 26 or 27 megapixel file. Still pretty large. In fact, even larger than many other cameras when they are using the entire sensor. This is absolutely just really beneficial. Another way that I use it is, say for example, I have my 24 millimeter lens on and I'm shooting a scene and I'm wondering, what would this scene look like if I had my 35 millimeter lens on? Well, with the down button, I can just push it and then crop into about a 35 millimeter field of view. That way I can keep on this lens and then see if I actually want to switch to 35 millimeter lens. Likewise, if I'm at 35, I can crop into about 50, and if I'm at 16, I can crop into 24. And I just so happen to have a 16 millimeter, 24 millimeter, 35 millimeter, and 50 millimeter lens. So it almost doubles my lenses, but primarily it lets me choose if I actually want to switch my lens. So for example, if I'm shooting at 24 and I'm thinking I want something a little tighter, let's see what this looks like at 35. And then I realize, okay, 35 is actually not tight enough. And then I'll just jump up to my 50 millimeter lens and see how that goes. This is how you get the most out of this function. And then of course, if you're a wildlife photographer, you can just crop in and then zoom into your subject way more than you normally would be able to. Okay, so that's it for all of the buttons. The last function we're going to change is the function of the scroll wheel, and it'll actually show you what it does with this icon right there. So pay attention. And what that does is change your focus area. Let's set that up and then let's talk about how you can use it in your photography. So let's jump back into the menu. And for this, you do want to go all the way to the bottom, to the dial/wheel area, and then go to option number 4. For that, go to the AF/MF icon and then choose focus area, or for section 1, and then focus area, like so. What that does is lets you cycle through all of your different focus areas. Now I've selected just 4. Now the camera does have a bunch of different focus area options. I recommend you select just the ones that you think you'll use the most. So let me show you how to limit the different focusing areas, and I'll tell you the ones that I picked, but that depends more on my sort of shooting. Okay, for this, when you go into the menu, you want to go all the way to the left and then go to the focusing area, which is the AF/MF icon. After that, go to section number 2, which is focus area. and then go to focus area limit and look at all these different focus area options that you get. These on top are focus areas without tracking. So I have selected wide without tracking. That way it uses the full sensor. I also have center fixed. That means that the focus area is stuck to the center, and when I initiate the autofocus, it'll start tracking whatever is in the center, as well as spot XL, spot medium, and then spot extra small. Once you have the different ones that you think you'll use, make sure you press OK so that they actually save. You can actually get very granular with these extra custom focus areas, but I think less is more. So press OK so that they save, and then you can test them out. Right now, this is set to wide focus area without tracking, so it'll just do its normal autofocus. And if you use the scroll wheel, so now it's center fixed, so even if I move the joystick around, it'll just stay right there. And then this is a large movable focus area with tracking, so it'll track whatever is in that focus area, followed by this one and then this extra small one, which is pretty nice. Now, I like that it is set to the scroll wheel. The reason is, if I scroll past the one that I want, let's say I want to go to center, but then I scroll over it because I'm doing it too fast, I can just scroll back. And this is faster than just having to press the button repeatedly as I cycle through each one. For example, the subject recognition, that's okay because there's only 3 options. So it'll take me at most 2 presses to go to the option that I want. But with focus area, I have more than that. So it's nice to be able to switch my focus area quickly and go up to the next focus area or back to the previous one. Another cool thing that you can do is, let's say for example, this is center fixed focus area. That means if I initiate my autofocus, it'll track whatever is in that area. It's also set to animal recognition. So if there's an animal in that area, it'll track that animal. If for whatever reason you want to use the center fixed focus area, but you don't want it to track an animal in that area, remember, you can just turn that off by pressing the C1 button. Now, no matter what sort of subject is in that focus area, you can just turn it on and it will not confuse your camera on how you want it to focus. This way, you're more guiding the camera and telling it what to do versus it trying to read your mind and figure out what you want it to do. So as you can see, I've created a very intuitive and easy to use configuration for your Sony a7R6. I strongly recommend that you try it out. There is just one more button that you want to configure. Make sure you configure the like button by pressing it so that this video gets out to more people. So give this configuration a try. You'll either really like it and just stick to it. Maybe what I think will happen is you'll use most of the configurations that I have mapped, and then along the way just tweak it to your liking, to your form of shooting. But also remember, if you think that this is the worst configuration for the Sony a7R6 and you know someone that uses this camera and you just want to sabotage their photography, feel free to send this to them as well. That way you'll end up getting better photos than them. But I think that's not going to happen. I think this is a very, very intuitive way of shooting because it puts some very powerful and really important configurations at your fingertip. Again, I can use this camera in pitch black darkness. I can use it without having to take my eye off of the subject, and I can switch from one mode of shooting to another in an instant. And I think you should be able to do that too. So I hope you like it. Again, my name is Alvaro. I'm a landscape photographer from the beautiful Pacific Northwest. Please subscribe if you want to see what this camera does. I'll be using it for basically everything, except video. I'm not going to use it for video unless I absolutely have to. Please go and check out my other videos, shooting bald eagles, astrophotography, And yeah, who knows what else is to come. I've got a few trips coming up where I'm gonna do more photography, and I'm very excited to show you guys how the photos turn out. Hopefully they turn out good, right? All right, see you next time.